My administration is reclaiming America's heritage as the world's greatest spacefaring nation. It is the essence of the American character to explore new horizons and to tame new frontiers. But our destiny beyond Earth is not just a matter of national identity, but a matter of national security. That's an excerpt from a 2018 speech that Donald Trump gave to the National Space Council, in which he introduced Space Force, the sixth branch of the military that will handle all of the United States military operations in the atmosphere and beyond. And much like anything Donald Trump says, it's been subject to a little bit more than a lot of controversy, being that a lot of people think that Space Force is either unnecessary or too expensive. And these are two things I've considered since the topic of Space Force came to me over 6 months ago. Since then, I've followed it with a close eye in order to form and maintain my own opinion. And I call it my own opinion, but really, it's in line with countless others. Among those ranks, Buzz Aldrin, Elon Musk, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and more. And that we all agree, and hopefully by the end of this speech, you will as well, that Space Force is a good idea. Now, to begin with, I want to address some of the reasons that people think Space Force is a bad idea, beginning with the idea that it's obsolete or unnecessary. And to address this, we turn to military analyst Lieutenant Colonel Rick Francoca, who's quoted with saying that Space Force, or rather space, is the next big battleground for warfare, being that man started on land, then took to the seas, and then to the skies, and that the next logical destination for warfare to evolve is into the stars. And unfortunately, this is not an opinion seen by him alone, as in what many people consider our two greatest international rivals, China and Russia, are already in space. And not just already in space, but ahead of us. According to a Politico 2018 article, they are indeed not already in it, but ahead of the nation that put the first man on the moon. And this is concerning, because just last year alone, China shot a missile 500 miles into the atmosphere and took down a satellite. And Russia has been accused of making unmanned drones that are capable of connecting to and taking down satellites as well. When we talk about national security with space, we're discussing satellites in the modern day. Now, satellites are extremely important to not just military, but civilian faculties, being that the military relies on them for targeting systems, reconnaissance, communicating with upper brass, and according to a 2018 Forbes article, just about every operation the United States military undertakes relies on satellites in some form, as well as the fact that it's a massive part of civilian infrastructure. And as it stands with satellites in orbit, we have no dedicated branch of the military in order to defend this national asset. Now, it's not just satellites that we have to worry about either. According to a Popular Science article from last year, and Popular Science is just a journal dedicated to things that people beyond biology majors would care about, there are 8 companies right now looking at making space tourism the next big business. Being that 8 companies are looking at making things relative to a space cruise, with one even looking into space hotels. What we see from this is we don't only have satellites to worry about when it comes to our upper atmosphere operations. We have to worry about the civilians and how civilian movements are expanding beyond Earth. And we have nobody there already. Now, when I discuss these needs for Space Force, I have to tell you what it's going to cost. And this is another issue that many people have, the price tag, which, to put it bluntly, is $16 billion, which sounds like a lot until you put it in the bucket we're drawing from. Being that Space Force is $16 billion from an annual military budget of $700 billion. Now, I'm not going to make you do the math because I've done it already, and it comes out to roughly 2.3% of our annual military spending. I'm going to go ahead and apologize because that's an intentionally misleading statistic. See, the $16 million from the mouth of the United States themselves is over the course of 5 years. So going by our 2018 tagline of roughly $700 billion a year for 5 years comes out to $3.5 trillion in military spending, of which $16 billion is less than half of a percentile. 4/1000ths of our military spending in order to establish a new branch of the military to handle pre-existing and future assets that we have beyond Earth. One of the things we talk about with military spending is it sounds like this money's disappearing, but it's really not. This money is going back into the American economy. It's going to underappreciated fields like astrophysics. It's going into engineering. It's going into workshop jobs in order to produce things that Space Force needs. This money is not disappearing. So what we see overall is that Space Force is not only something that we need, something to protect our future and current assets in space and defend our national, it's a part of our national security, but the cost isn't astronomical. So while I can't promise you that 100 years from today that Space Force will be the greatest thing America's ever done, what I can promise you is that today, Space Force is a good idea. Thank you, everyone.